So I know a lot of people were meeting with senators and House members and their staff today, and one thing that was heard over and over again was, we're just going to wait until after the election and then we'll address this. That's bullshit. We can't handle that. If our country was attacked by a foreign enemy the way that these white nationalist domestic terrorists have attacked our country over a dozen times this summer, we wouldn't be waiting until after an election. We would have already spent billions of dollars fighting off that enemy. The next mass shooter is not waiting until after the election. These senators shouldn't either. Get your act together and act. People are dying literally every day.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Democrats in their second attempt at a gun grab, right? Following Joe Biden signing a bipartisan gun control bill 1 month after the Uvalde mass shooting. And this time around, they're coming for so-called assault weapons, right? And I've had this conversation on my channel so much because there's so much ignorance around this topic, so much so that we actually need to have a series or a documentary called What is an Assault Weapon, right? Where we go around the country asking Democrats and liberals to define an assault weapon, right? As they're trying to fool the American people into thinking that assault weapons are what we call modern sporting rifles, things like AR-15s, those type of rifles that, you know, the Democrats have made enemy number one, okay? And they come out here and say they want to ban these weapons of war, even though these weapons aren't really used in war, as a way to try to seem like they're doing something, right? They're trying to grab votes. They're trying to play off the ignorance of their base. And finally, a Republican by the name of Mr. Greg Steube. He's a congressman from Florida, who I like a lot, by the way, especially when it comes to this conversation right here. Every time I hear him talking about this subject right here, he kills it. He knocks it out of the park. Had to explain to the Democrats exactly what an assault weapon is and how their bill makes no sense for what they claim they're trying to ban and the weapons that they claim they're trying to ban. Take a look.
Yield to a member on the Democratic side that served in a combat area designated zone and deployment of our country. Anybody in the Democratic side?
Mr. Steube, what's the purpose of the question? My father, no, let me finish. Let me finish.
Because I'm going to make a point and you're taking my time. So I will yield to any member who
because I'm offended at your suggestion that somehow if we've not served in a combat zone, that we don't care about protecting the lives of our constituents.
Has nothing to do about how you
to me.
And for our family members who have lost blood, they should be respected.
Reclaiming my time. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like 40 seconds.
I've seen my constituents die in battle.
It's Mr. Steube's time. Gentleman is recognized.
And I will ask for 40 additional seconds that I was taken. Okay, so I served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served in the Army, and there's a lot of talk in Washington about weapons of war. And my purpose of yielding to one of my colleagues who may have served was to ask them a specific question of what type of firearm were you issued when you were deployed? And the answer to that question is a true what would be defined as a weapon actually used in war, has a selector switch on it for fully automatic, 3-round burst, and semi-automatic. So when I deployed in 2006 in Operation Iraqi Freedom, we were issued M4s in the United States Army. Those M4s had a selector switch on them. Those selector switch allow you to have fully automatic, 3-round burst, or semi-automatic. Those firearms are not allowed for purchase in the United States today. So this cascading of weapons of war, what I was issued, and again, I would ask any person that served in a deployed environment, you are issued weapons that allow for fully automatic and 3-round burst. That is not available for purchase in the United States, and that is not what the Democrats are attempting to ban today because that's already banned. What we're talking about is a semi-automatic rifle that only is used in a semi-automatic form. So behind me is a typical AR platform weapon, and you can't see it because it's on this side, not the other side, that has a selector switch on it. That selector switch is only for fire or not fire, safe or not safe, and that is for a semi-matic operation of the weapon, which means every time I depress the trigger, a round comes out of the firearm. All right, next slide, and just move it over. This is the most popular handgun in the United States that was purchased is the Glock 19. It functions in exactly the same way as this rifle. It's a semi-automatic, just like that's a semi-automatic. The rifles not available for purchase don't have a selector switch for 3-round bursts or fully auto. This is a semi-automatic handgun. As quick as I depress the trigger of this Glock 19, a round comes out of the chamber. The functionality between that weapon and this weapon are exactly identical. There is no difference. So you're banning a class of weapons that you don't like the look of, not because of functionality, not because of how fast a round comes out of the weapon, just because you don't like the way that they look, because they function exactly the same. Now move this one over one. So now this is a Glock 19. Glock 19 comes with a 15-round magazine, which under this bill is legal, although it's interesting that a couple weeks ago you banned 10-round magazines and then you changed it to a 15-round magazine. It's interesting to understand the thought process there, but that is for another time. This is a 6-hour P320, which some of you probably saw in one of the hearings on the magazine bans. I showed my P320. This comes with a 20-round magazine. So under this bill, because it has a 15-round magazine ban, this gun would be banned because you wouldn't be able to use it. Again, it functions exactly the same as that gun.
Yeah, so it really is a damn shame that you have to have a Republican congressman sit down and explain to Democrats how guns work, how these so-called weapons of war that the Democrats keep talking about they're trying to ban are actually really not weapons of war, okay? They don't have the same functionality as real weapons of war, okay? They're trying to ban hunting rifles, right? They're trying to ban sporting rifles. They're not actually really trying to ban weapons of war because weapons of war are basically already banned, okay? It is very hard to get a fully automatic weapon in this country. I'm not saying it's impossible, okay? But it is very, very, very difficult. You're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody with that kind of weapon in this country. Again, not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's extremely, extremely, extremely difficult, okay? So again, it's a shame that this has to be explained. But, you know, Democrats, they don't like facts, right? They don't like facts, and they get upset. As doing this hearing, Representative Andy Biggs was talking about the war, right, or the invasion at the southern border. And apparently David Hogg didn't like that too much, and it caused him to get up and to cause chaos, like the agents of chaos love to do, during this hearing, which led to him getting kicked out. Take a look.
Reiterating the points of mass shooters in your manifesto. The shooter in my high school, anti-Semitic, anti-black, and racist. The shooter in El Paso described it as an invasion. Guess what? Those guns are coming from the United States of America. They aren't coming from Mexico. They are not coming from Mexico. You are reiterating the points of a mass shooter, sir. Sir, you are perpetuating this violence. You need to realize this is not about a Democrat or Republican. Stop these things now. Go David.
Mr. Chairman, didn't you just interrupt and proceed? Yeah, that would be gentlemen.
Look, I want to clarify one thing. Before that video was recorded, there was a Republican that was repeatedly saying that there is a Mexican invasion, a Hispanic invasion, over and over again. And look, I understand we're going to have policy disagreements. So be it. The reality is, these mass shooters are reiterating talking points that sure as hell sound a lot like what these Republicans are saying. And sure, we might have our disagreements, obviously, but the reality is, if you're saying something that mass shooters are also agreeing with, maybe you shouldn't be saying that same thing at the same time. The shooter at my high school was not on opioids. The shooter at my high school was not mentally ill. The shooter at my high school was not a undocumented or illegal immigrant. The shooter at my high school was an American, a 19-year-old American citizen, white nationalist that espoused hateful rhetoric about immigrants, about black people, about Muslims, and Jewish people. He was able to legally arm himself with an AR-15. Stop saying these talking points that these mass shooters are using. Stop reiterating them. That's why I said that.
Nah, you said that because you're an attention whore, right? Just like AOC. I guarantee you this man saw AOC and her little arrest stunt and decided that, you know what, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to Congress and doing this gun hearing, I'm going to stand up and speak and disrupt whoever's talking and woke virtue signal and get kicked out so that I can go viral. Because immediately after he did it, first thing he did was went and go and post on social media, right? That's exactly what he did. These guys are clout chasers, man. They're clout chasers. They ain't really about making any change. They're not really about it. Okay, because this man's issue is like, well, I didn't speak up because I had policy differences. I spoke up because this guy was saying mean things that I disagree with, mean things that I think that mass shooters say, aka things that he believes are radicalizing people to commit mass shootings. But it's the same person who repeats Democrat talking point, white supremacist this, white nationalist that, talking points that radicalize people on the left to commit acts of violence. But he wants to sit here and talk about, oh, well, he's saying things I think are radicalizing mass shooters, while at the same time repeating talking points that radicalize other people on the left, right, to commit acts of violence that we've seen around the country. Like, I don't know, trying to assassinate a Supreme Court justice, or making death threats towards Ted Cruz and other Republican congressmen because they are allegedly trying to take away the voting rights of black people in this country. Again, this guy is a clown, bro. And I'm so sick and tired of these people on the left trying to guilt trip people into agreeing with them. Every time you look, this dude is always talking about, well, I went through this, I went through that. And it's like, bro, I feel bad for you. I do. I really do. However, you can't continue to use that to guilt trip people into giving up their rights. That's not how it works. The same way the so-called trans activists can't guilt trip people using the suicide rate of trans people to allow biological men to compete against biological women in sports, and for biological men to use the bathroom with biological women. That's not how it works. But the reason why they do this is simple. It's because they don't want to engage in a debate with facts, because they know they've lost with the facts, right? Like the so-called assault rifles, okay, aka the sporting rifles that this guy wants to ban so bad, right? Him and the Democrat Party. More people are killed by knives, right, in fist fights than by rifles in this country. But see, they don't talk about that because, again, if you start to talk about that and you bring facts to the table, then we got to have a conversation about banning knives, right? Should we ban fists, right? Should we ban that? Again, if we're using just facts, and we're talking about facts in terms of which weapons are used to kill people around this country, right? We should be talking about banning fists and knives, right? And other weapons, okay? As much as we're talking about rifles. But again, that doesn't fit the narrative, right? Doesn't fit the narrative of let's ban the big scary assault weapon, right? The weapon of war, okay? That is not really available, right, for people to purchase here, but hey, they don't know that. The base is dumb. The Democrat base is dumb according to these people. Again, these people are clout chasers, bruh. It's all about the camera. It's all about social media. They're not making any change. They don't want to make any change. Because if they made some change, they wouldn't have anything to clout chase and raise money off of. It's really that simple, bruh. And one day people will figure this out, that these people are the fake, phoniest people in the world. They're actors. They're agents of chaos. All they want is chaos. That's it. That's it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.